champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Fucking number one. You win.
Number one.
Number one.
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 10 of the Danny Batten MMA show, only on Ace Podcast Nation. I am your host, Sai. Here at Ace Podcast Nation, we have podcast interviews and content on all sorts of subjects, from MMA to films and TV to wrestling to mental health to football and much, much more. We have a weekly live show, 7 p.m. It's actually 7:30 this week. Uh, the Andy Campbell Championship Show, which is our live football show every Monday. We have, what else do we have coming up this week? We've got an interview with former Merthyr MP and councillor turned football writer and YouTuber Adam Brown, which is very interesting. I've coming up in March, we've got new episodes of My Story with former Wales defender Rhys Weston, plus former world champion boxer Robbie Regan, which is going to be a really interesting show, and a whole lot more. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Click that bell and you'll get notified every time we go live or upload a show. Today's show brought to you as usual by our friends at Away Day Apparel. Away Day Apparel is a group of casually obsessed football fans looking to bring something different to the wardrobes of like-minded people. Please visit their website, awaydayapparel.co.uk, and I highly recommend giving them a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and a like. Especially for Ace Podcast Nation viewers, we have a code for 10% off all orders at the checkout. If you put in the code AA Podcast Nation, all in lowercase, you'll get 10% off all orders. And I've seen some of their stuff, which is coming out very soon. There's some limited edition hats and stuff like that, and there's also some special stuff coming up with the Euros in the summer. I am today, of course, joined for the technical analysis and breakdown of all our fights and MMA chat. Former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend, Mr. Danny Batten. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
All right, Si. Yeah, bit bedraggled from an active weekend. I had a fight show to go to myself. There was Cage Warriors on, and obviously we got the UFC to cover. Yeah, so it's been all systems go this weekend. Really has.
Yeah, so you had a busy day or two. So where were
Yeah,
you? Where were you last night?
I was at an amateur event called Battle Arena. I think it's the biggest amateur event actually in Europe. I think it's pretty well established now. It's been running for a good number of years, and we've had some active fighters on that promotion for some time now. Got numerous title holders, from being regional title holders on there and world title holders as well. Yeah, we had 5 people fighting on there. Was due to have 6, but for different reasons, we ended up with 5 on there. And pleased to say we come away with 5 wins as well. So we had a clean
Excellent.
sweep on there.
Good night's work.
Yeah,
So,
it's good.
Yeah, you can't do much better than that. Let's be honest.
No, that's right.
So yeah, just before we go into the UFC stuff, I thought we'll touch on the Cage Warriors stuff first.
Sure.
Just because I think we're gonna obviously we'll talk about Tom's fight, Tom Ernst, and then we'll just touch on mainly the main event in the Cage Warriors, Warriors 112. I would say to everyone though, if you've got UFC Fight Pass, I do advise you to check out Cage Warriors 112. If you're an MMA fan, because it was a really good show. Even the pro prelims were really good as well. The main event of the main card was about as good a fight as you'll see. And it would normally be fight of the weekend, but it was not fight of the weekend, which we'll get into in a minute. It was, however, a lot better than the UFC main event, which was not what we were hoping for. So I know you watched the main event just now from Cage
Yes.
Warriors, but have you seen Tom's fight yet?
I watched Tom's fight live in terms of the live streaming that they had. Obviously,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
at another event at the time, so I did get to watch it. Yeah, I couldn't make my notes like I normally
No,
do.
no, of course.
I just not had time to, and I was warming up fighters in the process of trying to watch Tom's fight live as well. So yeah, hence the so I'm a bit bedraggled from the weekend's activities. But yeah, I did watch it. I can summarise on what I saw,
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
and we started to see a sharper Tom Mearns, which was good to see. The first round was all Tom. Um, from what I can remember, he staggered his opponent in the early rounds with his boxing, which I know is something that he wanted to work. He wanted to work his hands on this guy. Started to connect. Um, they ended up getting to the ground with Tom on top, and Tom was looking really dominant. He transitioned past the guard pretty easily, and this guy's no slouch on the ground. We know he's a good ground guy because Richard Mearns, Tom's brother, identical twin brother, has competed against this guy, I think 4 times in total, at least
Okay.
three, but I think there's up to 4 times that they competed, and I think they're quite even um,
Yeah.
on regards getting wins over each other. But this is an MMA event, not just a grappling event. But Tom really impressed me on the ground, looking really sharp with his takedown defense. Ended up top position, got past guard, got to mount, and started working up on several arm triangles. When I say several, they had several exchanges where the guard was regained again, but Tom got past again and again in that mount position, working that arm triangle, but was just unable to complete it. But a really dominant first round.
Yeah, I thought he looked really good in the first round,
Mm.
and obviously we'll talk about the next round next. But he looked so much sharper than his last
Yeah.
fight in everything. It's like you mentioned, his boxing was sharp,
Mm.
but his groundwork was good also. Um, Obviously it didn't go the way he wanted it after that,
No,
unfortunately.
no,
Um,
no, no. He got taken down, didn't he, in that second round? Was having to work off his back. I think the way he scrambled up was from a half guard. I know he's quite hard to hold down in half guard. He's got a short, stocky, strong body composition.
yeah,
And I know I've had half guard top positions on him, and it's really, really quite hard to hold him down. He did scramble up, but very, very quickly in that scramble, he's put into a triangle. It's the second attempt at a triangle that his opponent had put on him throughout the fight. And first one he was able to nullify quite quickly, but this one was getting in deep. He did have the other arm in, so not the triangle arm, but he had the other arm in, stuffing and stifling the hips of his opponent, which I think he should have left in, but he put it out to try to get some ground and pound and some control on the chin to try to put some twist to try and twist out of that triangle. But unfortunately, he enabled him to engage the hips even better, and this led to the demise and submission from Tom, which was disappointing to see after such a dominant performance right up until then. I mean, really, his opponent had no real successes other than the success that led to the tap. But that's the beauty of MMA. You can be ahead in any scenario, on the feet, in the wrestling, on the ground, and you can lose so many varied ways, so many ways to lose. Yeah, and Tom didn't nail it, but Tom is getting better. He's come from some really harsh times, but it looks like he's getting himself together. But it would have been nice to see him as he gets himself together to get more results in. Yeah, it just didn't happen for him. But he's got 4 more fights under the Cage Warriors promotion. It was a really good sign seeing what we saw. Um, hopefully next time we see a dominant performance along with the win as well. But we can't take nothing away from his opponent. I mean, well done to him. Um, he's going to move forward, and I look forward to seeing him in the future also.
yeah, it was a strange fight in many ways because
Mm,
Tom was so dominant, and then all of a sudden, Hooper just he just managed to get
yeah,
that triangle in.
yeah,
He really hadn't done he hadn't really done any damage. He hadn't progressed anything. He hadn't really threatened before that, really.
yeah,
Um, so it is a shame in terms of the result. But I was speaking to my friend earlier, and he was sort of saying, "Oh, he he looked better last night, but Tom doesn't look where he was before his injury." And I said, "Yeah, but that injury was
mm,
so serious and so it was almost like having like a disability for months after it. But it
mm,
was such a bad injury, and and not just the physical side of the injury, it's the psychological side of an
mm,
injury like that. Um, I think it takes time to just get your head around it and just get ready for it. And I feel like
yeah,
the fight before he had in Cage Warriors, just before the Bellator fight fell through, I felt like he looked okay,
mm,
but this one I felt like if you take the result out of it, he did look more
yeah,
like what you'd expect. His boxing was
yeah,
really
yeah.
good. Um,
He was much nearer the Tom Mearns that we know of.
yeah,
Without diving too much into his personal life
yeah, of
and
course.
and making excuses. The kid's gone through so much. Obviously, I would be the only one that knows that, or his team would know that because we experience it firsthand. He's gone from relationship breakups, changing of jobs. He just recently started a new job, literally just 2 weeks before that sort of like give him direction to help him get this job.
Mhm.
I actually worked for this company myself years back, and it's a great job, but it's hard work and a lot of traveling involved. Again, not to take anything away from his opponent's win
Yeah,
or taking anything, to read too much into Tom's performance. He did perform really, really well, but I think all these things going on, they do take some kind of effect on your performances. Without, again, I can't reiterate enough. Not trying to excuse, but my God, this kid could write a book, and it wouldn't be enough to cover everything that he's been through to get to even this point in his career. Um, but there was good signs in it. I've got real hopes and aspirations that things are going to get better for him. He's fighting up a weight as well, which was a decision on his own behalf after what was happening with Bellator. He actually looked really strong and really quite sharp. So I'm happy for him to stay down that way. I was a little bit dubious about it because he's not the tallest. I think it's about 5'8" statistically. Um, but he looked good. He was giving away what 3 inches height advantage to this guy, but
didn't
Tom's
notice
really
it at
good
the
at
time
closing
though.
in. Yeah, he's really
Yeah,
good at closing in. Yeah, next fight you're going to see a sharper and even better Tom, I'm sure, and maybe that'll be a step too far for his opponent next time around. But hey, let's see.
yeah, and I
Time will
mean
tell.
with 4 fights, 4 fights on the contract left. If he goes and wins
Yeah,
those 4 fights with, if he gets sharper every time, there's
yeah,
no reason why he's not going to be, in and around the title
sure.
picture.
Yeah,
And that's how quick, things change quickly.
yeah,
But yeah, I was impressed with the performance, but
sure.
disappointed for
And,
the
and from a
results.
personal point of view, I was more impressed with his response to his message with me. Obviously, I wished him luck, and I couldn't be there. And then, got a text to say, you fought really well, Tom, blah, blah, blah. Got a really positive reply back, and one that showed me that he's got very clear direction on how he wants things to go leading up to the next fight. So, in that aspect, that
You could
really
tell that by
showed that
his
things are
Facebook
coming
post.
together in his life. Got back a job again, which I think is really, really important for your stability in life. So
Mm,
he's got some things that are steady going on in his life. I think that's what you need as a fighter. You need to have some kind of stability and basis in your life. He's got that now. So yeah, let's just move forward. We're not going to look back, only ever to learn. We're ready to move forward as a team.
yeah, you could tell that by the Facebook post that he put up after the fight as well.
Yeah,
It was not, obviously disappointed with the result, but you could see
yeah,
that he was taking the positives from it, and also
absolutely.
that he felt sharp.
Yeah,
You can kind of tell when a fighter speaks after a fight if how they feel within themselves,
yeah,
if they haven't done themselves justice or whatever it may be.
hmm
And that certainly wasn't the case with Tom from this. You could see
yeah,
that he felt positive about it. Now, the main event of the Cage Warriors 112 was Jack Cartwright versus Manuel Bilic.
yeah,
Manuel Bilic was undefeated. Jack Cartwright had obviously, I think he'd won tournament, hadn't he, in the Cage Warriors Unplugged. Um,
yeah.
so the bantamweight, was it bantamweight title? I think I might have that wrong. Um, but I have to say, like, I was aware of Jack Cartwright, and I knew that he was very good. He was very highly rated.
Mm,
What really impressed me is he took some big shots, and they just did not phase him whatsoever. And I
yeah,
felt like he won by a unanimous decision, and it was
yeah,
a dominant
it
display.
was dominant. Yeah, it was really impressive. I mean, people down at this sort of weight, they normally don't carry a lot of knockout potential, but this kid does. He bangs so hard. He doesn't even look much physically. I know they're not big in that division, period, but it's not like he's super muscled or anything like
No,
that. He looks really unassuming physically, but phew, he gets some acceleration on those hands, and you could tell he just bangs big and fearless along with it. And I think that makes a lethal combination. I think when you're coming forward with all intent of landing everything you can with everything you got, and regardless of what comes back, they make dangerous fighters. They really do. I mean, Billick, let's not take anything away from him. He showed some great kicking ability, really hacking up the lead leg of Cartwright, but Cartwright didn't seem to flinch at him. And at one point, his trouser leg, he rode up his leg when he had a closed guard, or maybe when he was on top, and you saw the damage.
it was nasty,
But
wasn't it?
it
Oh, it was
didn't once,
gnarly.
yeah, it didn't once show that his leg was hurt. I don't know whether it's just down to his character or what it was. But one thing that I do suspect was happening with Billick's leg kicks, where he's landed a little bit perhaps with the foot, which will make the outside of the skin look like it's damaged, where the damage perhaps was not deep into the leg. Maybe if he was able to get his shin on the thigh a little bit more often, he may have had something consequential going on there with the leg. But I can't blame him for landing with the foot, wanting to sort of like kick and not get planted on with that rear hand that he was getting countered with. I think maybe if he landed with the shin to try and make a consequential leg kick and develop on it, maybe that right hand would have landed that little bit more flush and knocked him out. But Cartwright was just reading those kicks. He was willing to take them, to catch the kick, to plant down the pipe with that right hand, and I didn't have to wrestle him down. He was knocking him down, and
Yeah, the hand
we see.
speed, wasn't it? With those
Oh my
counter right
God,
shots,
the
it was just
uppercuts and the
bang.
body shots, ferocious,
And I think
ferocious.
like 3 or 4 times, Bilic went for a kick, and Cartwright
Mm,
nailed him with like a really quick right hand, and he just
yeah,
left him on. He didn't follow it up. He just left him on the floor, let him get back up
yeah,
because
yeah,
he
yeah.
was so confident in his own
Sure.
ability to keep doing it that
Yeah.
he didn't chase it. I
Right.
think I just said when I was initially talking about it, I think I said Bilic was undefeated. I meant Cartwright, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um, Bilic has been around the block. I think it looked as if he was perhaps going to that was going to be his last fight because he took his gloves off.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe he left them in the cage afterwards, but I don't know that for sure. Um,
Right.
but what a fight to finish a career on! I gotta say, I know he would have been disappointed that he lost, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
let's
It
be
was
honest,
brilliant.
he took some big shots,
I
and
did.
he finished 5 rounds.
Yeah. Weirdly, he looked more comfortable the longer the fight went on. I think that's partly because Cartwright's power diminished a little bit
Yeah.
as the fight wore on. It was new rounds for both of them, championship rounds. I've done championship rounds, and it's a real test of character.
How
To
much of
have
a difference is that from going from your like your
yeah.
3 rounds, your normal 3 rounds, to then those two
Okay,
extra rounds?
championship rounds. The defining difference really is that when you're feeling the fatigue, also pain sets in. So things like leg kicks, body shots, the swelling on your face. Maybe if you've had your nose broke, the breathing starts to
Mm.
really get affected. It's a real test of character. Yeah, only the toughest prevail and be effective in championship rounds. I really believe that. Yeah, it's the separation between regular fighters and real serious fighters. Um, and both of them showed that they deserve to be in there for title shots. They can get through 5 rounds. These two, they've really impressed me. Cartwright, did lose a little bit of the power as the fight wore on, but it was not a slow pace, and it wasn't like he was holding out to try to go over the 5 rounds. He was looking to put it away every
Yeah,
single
he was
round.
trying
So
to
of
finish it
course some
all.
of the power is going to diminish.
Did
It
you
was
give him
never a
all
slow
five
pace.
rounds?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. But let's not take anything away from Billick. Billick was, trying to find a way to win. A little bit of lack of posture control, but I think I just think that he was still trying to nail a win right up until the last minute. He was trying for an armbar, just was never there for him. And going back to complimenting Cartwright as well. Cartwright, it wasn't like he was leaving it all just for the striking, which he so easily could have. He was actually engaging on the ground, and which was put him at risk to a point, because Billick's really good on the ground. He's got a really good guard, very dangerous guard. But Cartwright showed no fear to be down there. Did a good job of stuffing and good job of regaining his posture to come out back to the feet and score on the ground as well as on striking. Impressive all-round performance. I can't see anyone right now on the European scene that's going to get near Cartwright. So,
I'm
yeah,
not sure he's going to be staying there. He straight away in his interview, he was saying about UFC Dublin, he wants on that card.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you look at the UFC bantamweight division, there could be room to bring him in.
Yeah, absolutely.
For that, and if he comes in
he's
for
ready.
like a one-shot deal with the on the Dublin card, and he is impressive, they'll sign him up straight away, because they won't want to risk losing him to Bellator. I know Cage Warriors have got like a link to the UFC, but Bellator have taken Cage Warriors fighters before. Obviously, even like Tom, like we were just talking about. So I'm just going to quickly scan through the results really of the Cage Warriors main card. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of each fight, because I haven't seen all of them. I saw most of them, but we'll be here all night if we go through everything. So you had the main the last two fights of the pro prelims was Nathan Fletcher defeated Johan Segas via TKO in round one. Jonas Magard defeated Liam Gittins via a unanimous decision. Then on the main card, Adam Wilson defeated Scott Malone via submission in a rear naked choke in round two. I saw a few people on social media were surprised by that result. I was more familiar actually with Scott Malone than I was with Adam Wilson, but I saw the end of it and he looked impressive. Then we had James Webb defeated Mike Stanton via unanimous decision. George Smith defeated Lucas Marcinkowski via armbar in round one. And Adam Proctor defeated Mardas Flaminas via unanimous decision, which was, I thought that was another very good fight. And I thought Adam Proctor was very, very impressive. So Cage Warriors have got some massive shows coming up over the coming months, as well as the UFC. I know we talked about last week about we'll test doing some watch-alongs for the shows, which are obviously on a reasonable time for us. But obviously, we also have to work around your commitment to to your fighters and stuff on Saturday nights and things like that.
We'll get done whatever I'm available to get do. I'm willing to do as much as possible. But it does have to fall in place a little bit.
It'd be nice to get that done, but obviously,
absolutely
if
will.
if you're at an event, then you can't be doing a watch along, unless you do it from by the cage.
On the, while we're on the subject of Cage Warriors, there's one of my former students, Luke Shanks. He's going to be fighting for a title in the coming week. I can't remember the exact date of it off the top of my head, because I've got dates coming up my ears with other fight events with my own students. But Luke Shanks was a real talent when he was under us, he's a real prospect, a really good striker. He's got some moves on the ground as well, but he chooses to mainly leave it for the feet. But he can fight on the ground too, this kid. He now trains up in Scotland, but they're doing a fantastic job of his game. And I mean, he's going from strength to strength, and we stayed good friends. And like he has with all of our team, really, we're always in contact with him. So a little shout out for Luke Shanks. Good luck for when your fight comes up in the coming weeks. Wish you all the best, and your team and your new coaches that you have are doing a great job. It's going to be good.
Excellent. I was just looking then. The Cage Warriors London show is on March, which is a Friday. But
Yeah,
I would to have done our first watch along for that, or because I think the
yeah,
UFC show is either the weekend before, or it might even be the Saturday. Um,
right.
but it's my son's birthday on the Friday on 20th of March, so I'm not sure. It'll depend on the start time and thing whether I'll be able to do that. But
Right, yeah, yeah.
obviously, if you're
It's
available,
my son's birthday on the 21st.
there you go. So
But
we
you
might
know,
have
I don't
to
mind doing something. You know,
wait until.
I'll always fit some things in with my son. I don't see much of him now since he's got a girlfriend. Women.
Yeah, it's my middle son, but I didn't see much of my older son because he's either training or uh,
Right.
with his girlfriend. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it is. Um, so I think the first live watch along we'll probably do will be the week before that, which is the UFC London card,
Okay.
which is the 16th of March. So if you're
Sure.
available, I think it's. Oh, I might have also just looked at completely the wrong thing there, because the main event I believe is Woodley and Edwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. I just want to double check the date. I know it's the 21st, so that would have been a hell of a weekend because we could have. Oh, so I suppose if we were, oh, yes, your son's birthday on Saturday. I was going
Yeah,
to
but
say if we did,
I can do stuff on the Saturday. I'll be doing
right,
something with him in earlier that evening. So if we need to do something, I'm still up for it.
because what I'm thinking is we could do the UFC London watch along.
Yeah.
That begins at a time. Um, no, so that'll be like the evening. But what I was thinking is if we go on air about maybe half hour to 40 minutes before we're going to start the watch along, we could cover the Cage Warriors show from the night before,
Yeah.
and then go into the watch along for the UFC
Sure.
London, because there's some great fights. The card for
Yeah.
that is really really fantastic.
Hmm.
And obviously I've got a couple of or a friend on there who's fighting in Jack Shaw, and but there's also we got it's an incredible card looking at it because you've got like John Phillips, who's obviously Welsh. Then you've got Molly McCann on the prelims. They are both of them. I can't believe Molly McCann's on the prelims. To be honest with you, after her last fight was sensational. Um, so we got John Phillips versus Dusko Torjevic, Molly McCann versus Ashley Evans Smith. Both of them are on the prelim card. There's also there's some other fights as well. Then on
Hmm.
the main card, it's Jack Shaw versus Geraldo de Freitas, Darren
Right.
Stewart versus Martin Vittori, Danny Roberts versus Nicholas Darby, Jack Marshman, uh, another Welshman, versus Kevin Holland, and then the main event is Tyrone Woodley versus Leon Edwards. I thought uh, Jay Herbert was fighting on that card. I must have got that wrong. Hmm. Yeah, I know he is. He's fighting Mark Casey versus Jay Herbert. This is UFC debut, isn't it, Jay Herbert? Because he was the Cage Warriors featherweight champion, I believe, or lightweight champion. But yeah, hell of a card. And obviously
Hmm.
on the night before, you have the Cage Warriors show, which is Cage Warriors London, which has got Paddy Pimblett's fighting, uh, and there's a couple of others, big fights. So that's going to be one hell of a weekend for
Yeah.
MMA fans. So I think that'll be a good weekend for us to, try out the live watch along, see if people
Sure.
like it, see how we get along, and obviously, you know, being in the UK, we don't always get to watch UFC shows at a decent time,
Hmm.
um, to react, live and stuff. And it's always better watching those
Yeah.
live shows.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, and I believe it'll be on. I'm not sure if it'll be on BT Sport or whether it'll be on the Fight Pass because it's on ESPN in America. So, um, and Friday, Cage Warriors 113, which is a very interesting card. Paddy Pimblett, obviously returning to action
Yes.
is a big deal
Looking
for
forward.
Cage Warriors company, I think,
Mm.
because I do think even though he's not champion currently, I kind of think he's their main drawing card in terms of bringing viewers in. Like he's one of their biggest names, really, isn't he?
Sure.
In terms of in terms of like fan base, I think.
Mm-mm.
Uh, but he's got, he can come back to the level he was at before. Oh, there you are. Luke Shanks is fighting on that card
Ah,
on
okay.
Friday.
Yeah.
So the main four fights are Pimblet versus Martinez, Belrado versus Jones, Fadine
Mm.
versus Shanks, and Cherrier versus Barnovich for the interim featherweight title bout. And I'm guessing that the winner of the main event will probably get the winner of Paddy, Pimblet, and Martinez.
Yeah.
I would imagine. Yeah, Luke Shanks fighting for the flyweight title. Is it Luke Shanks?
Yes, that's it. Luke Chance.
Yeah, so he's fighting for the flyweight title on that card.
Yeah.
Just going to quickly double check if there's any prelim fights on there for us. Nothing which stands out, but we'll have a look. But yeah, I'm really disappointed. I think I said this last week that the Cage Warriors Academy show in Wales, I think it's next weekend, is not on any streaming service, which is
Right.
very disappointing. But
Yeah.
I suppose they can't stream everything, I
Mm-mm.
guess. Okay. So last week,
Yeah.
myself,
And sorry, sir, I'm gonna have to nip to the loo.
oh, you're right. No worries. I'll make a note.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you
Sorry.
edit that out?
Yeah, I can crack it on. I might just leave it in there just to embarrass you. But,
Oh
yeah,
no.
no, I'll leave. Yeah,
Is
no
it
worries. I'll make
only
a note
quick
of
wee
the
wees,
time.
but
Yeah,
I won't be able to last out another hour.
Oh, you're right.
Right.
Crack on.
Right. Oh, back with you.
Cool. 33, 26. Just, I'll make a note of the time just because
Yeah.
otherwise I've got to scroll through it all.
That's sitting in cafes drinking coffee all day, watching the fights.
Yeah,
That's what's
that's
done.
it, innit? Right. So last week, myself and Danny made our predictions for UFC 248.
Yeah.
I just had a quick scroll through, and I think I won 3-2.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
So the first fight we had was Alex Oliveira versus Max Griffin. You had last week. You had Oliveira to win, and I had Max Griffin to win.
Yes.
So yeah, that was not the case. It's a close fight though. Alex Oliveira
Yeah.
won via split decision. Overall, how did you find this fight?
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Hang on. Who did you have down for that? Did you say Max Griffin? You had down for that?
Yeah, I had Max Griffin for that one, and you had
Yeah.
Alex Oliveira.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this one. Really exciting. First round. It's just the size of Alex Oliveira. He looked really big. Yeah, he seems to be really long and and Gangly just looked bigger than Max. But Max come out at a really fast pace, didn't he? He really come chasing it down. And I was thinking, wow, if it carries on like this, this might not go the distance. He looked really effective and really aggressive. Just seemed to have more energy about him in that first round. We weren't saying anything overly too technical or anything like that. It was just a lot of energy being used. Oliveira was trying to keep him up against the fence, but struggled. Kept getting forced back out in the open. I felt like this was going in Max Griffin's favour in the first round. He just seemed to be chasing it down a little bit more. Alex was just like biding his time. It seemed he's just letting him use that energy. Still meeting him force on force somewhat a little bit, but was just not coming off it as well. It was going Griffin's way from what I saw of the first round.
Yeah, I thought I did. Like Oliveira tried to chase it down a lot. Griffin. He scored a couple of takedowns. He did get some ground and pound as well later on in that first round. Oliveira was scrambled to his feet. Griffin was holding onto the cage a little bit as well, which I thought was thought the referee was a little bit slow compared to what they're normally like. He was a bit slow, but it was good. Good, exciting fight though.
It was. It was good. I think it was this one as well, because I'm just looking at my notes. I think it's this one that on the site that I go on, the second round was the same as the first. So I didn't get to see the second round, which I think Oliveira was dominant in. But I just couldn't get it. I don't know whether you had issues finding the second round, but mine skipped to the third.
I had the same issue with that with that same site. For some reason, they played the second round was not the right one. But I watched it. I did watch it, and the second round, Oliveira got himself together a bit, and he just meant that he was more together, and he was a bit tighter with his defense to Griffin.
Was it on the ground or was it on the feet that he was getting the better?
So round two, let's look. It began with Oliveira came out straight away and he was attacking Griffin with some leg kicks, and they were quite stiff. And Oliveira cracked him then with an uppercut to follow up. He grabbed Griffin, got him against the cage wall, which was a kind of theme. The fighters were separated. The ref halted the fight then because he wanted to check a cut on Griffin. As the action resumed, then Oliveira was attacking with more leg kicks, and he seemed to be targeting Griffin's legs to try and wear him down. And obviously, with his size advantage, I think that was taking its toll a little bit on Griffin in that second round. Oliveira had him backed up against Griffin backed up against the cage. He was swinging away, and the fighters separated. Oliveira threw some front kicks to the body, and he looked for a takedown as the round ended. But it was a comfortable 10-9 for Oliveira that second round.
Right.
And then, did you see the third round?
Yes. I got to see the third round. One thing that was impressing me was those midsection teeps that Oliveira was throwing out. They look really long, really nasty and snappy. That was helping stopping Max do what he did in the first round in trying to rush in. I think maybe coming out of that fast-paced first round, maybe took something out of Griffin's game for the next two rounds, because he just didn't look quite as energetic and as formidable as he did in that first round. Now, whether that's trying to deal with the size that it looked like Oliveira had over him, or maybe that tied in on him. But he was just getting less effective. He did have some moments where he had Oliveira's back against the fence. He was holding like a crutch hold, holding it on the hip. He had him up against there, but was really ineffective about trying to get any kind of takedown from there. and then he was getting switched and getting his back put on the fence, and then got put to the ground. And from there, he made some mistakes. Really, he tried to turn his back at a wrong opportunity to try to scramble up. Didn't have the energy about him to scramble up again. I think it was just a little bit of the size issue, and ended up giving into a mount position. And we was at this point only 3.5 minutes left of the round, so a lot of the round to be stuck underneath a bigger, stronger Oliveira. They had half guard, I think, for a little while as well. After he had been mounted, he got into half guard, but yeah, it was not looking like a very good half guard, and got mounted again. It was a very, very weak half guard that he held, and was just struggling to get up. I think fatigue was a huge factor. He was bleeding, blooded, tired, and give up the mount position twice. But again, he had a little bit of moment again. I think about the 150 mark, he slipped off of Griffin's back. I think this was not a case of that he was fatigued. I think he slipped off because of the blood and the sweat. It seemed that he slipped off. Of course, he was tired too, but I don't think it was pure tiredness that he fell off the back. I think he literally just misjudged how slimy and slippery it was in there with the blood and the sweat, and found himself underneath. But Griffin, really needed to shine there to try to steal back this round. But I just think he had left all the remaining fight that he had. He got left back in round one, and was unable to really look effective in the top half guard that he had. And he really needed to look effective in that last part to try and steal back the round.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because feel like my impression was that I think he went at hell for leather in that first round because
Yeah,
of the size difference. So I think he
mm,
thought that he could kind of catch Oliveira out,
yeah,
um, and then he suffered with a lot of fatigue, like you mentioned, and he
yeah,
tired. But then, right at the end of that third round, he, like you say, because of the blood and the sweat, Oliveira slipped off, and Griffin was suddenly found himself in a position where he could do something, but
yeah,
he just didn't really. I don't know if he'd had the energy or he wasn't. He just wasn't able to really take
mm,
hold and do something with it. However, he Oliveira defeated Max Griffin by split decision. So one of the
yeah,
judges actually had given, I'm assuming, that third round to
yeah,
Griffin.
yeah,
And all I can assume is that he gave him because of that last minute or
yeah,
so,
yeah.
which
One of the judges obviously saw it as enough to pinch back the round.
goes to show you can
To
never rely on what
no,
you
no.
think the judges are going to do.
I totally would never agree with that judge, quite simply because the top position that Max had was a half guarded one. Um, Oliveira both had, two mount positions, a
Yeah.
back take briefly, and half guard, and for a longer duration.
So yeah, I
So
don't know how
yeah,
you get that round to him, and obviously the second round was clearly Oliveira's, and the
yeah,
first round was clearly
yeah,
Griffin's. It was difficult to
yeah,
see where that judge got that for the split decision, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is why you can, as a fighter, I'd imagine you can never go into a final round thinking, "Oh, it's
Mm-mm.
okay. I'm up 2 rounds or three
Yeah,
rounds," because you just don't know how the judges will view different aspects of the fight.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, it was an exciting, good fight though. I enjoyed
yeah,
that one.
yeah. I enjoyed
Um,
it. Yeah, it was good.
Next up was Neil Magny versus Li Jinglang. Um, this
Yeah,
was
yeah.
interesting.
Oh,
Interesting. This fight. This was. Um, Obviously, Neil Magny's been around
yeah,
for a while, but
yeah.
this
Because
was
this was
about as impressive as he's ever been. I think.
Yeah, yeah, no, it definitely looked good. It's been a little while since we've seen him. I actually bet against him on this one, didn't I? This was,
I believe
I,
so. Yeah,
I
I
thought,
thought.
and I thought Neil Magny, because he's had a bit of time out. I just thought that he would be a little bit more rusty than he was, but he actually looked really quite sharp. I know that he's really, really good. He's got great cardio, but I just thought that time out um, would have not have served him well. But it seems that that time out has been a way to improve his skills, and he actually looks strategically really good, and really knew how to make that extremely long reach of his count. Um, yeah, he was quite impressive. Um,
Yeah, you've talked on previous shows about like fight IQ.
Yeah,
And I thought he showed really good fight IQ in this fight. I
yeah,
thought he managed the fight very well as using his skills
yeah,
throughout the fight. I just thought he was very good. Um,
yeah,
the first round,
yeah,
gone.
yeah. Normally we see Li Jinglang look a little bit more comfortable on his feet, but I think for the simple fact that uh, Neil's got that long reach and that real natural athleticism, I think this posed a real big problem for Li Langley. He was expressing some really good head movements to avoid some of those shots, but those shots just kept coming. And inevitably, when you keep throwing shots, as much as you try to use your head to evade rather than block, some are always going to find home. And it did. But in that first round, the first round started to go the way I suspected it to go, with Zhang Li clinching up and going to the back of Neil like he did. I started thinking, well, okay, I'm going to be right with this call for Li Zhengli to get the win. I was feeling kind of confident at this stage. I thought, yeah, he's a little rusty, making mistakes up against the fence. But to be fair, after that back take, he started to never look quite so dominant. You started to see glimpses of what Neil Magny was going to be capable of throughout the fight. He very quickly took his back in return, didn't he?
Yeah, he got.
And managed to
It was
get Zhang
almost
Li
as if
down briefly.
it was almost as if Magny was a little bit nervous for the first minute or two,
Yeah,
and then he just settled into his plan, and
yeah,
as soon as he scored that takedown, I think it was about halfway through the first round,
that's right.
Magny just looked comfortable. He looked as if that takedown gave him confidence. He took
Yeah,
down Jin Lang, and he gets back control.
yeah.
Jin Lang does scramble to his feet, um, but Magny then kind of holds him against the cage, and they exchange some strikes in the clinch.
Mm-mm.
Um,
And Neil Magny, used that long reach of his to his advantage again. He was reaching round the back up against the fence and
yeah,
reaching to trap his arm. So again, it seems like he's matured into using his body composition to his fullest effect. With that long jab that he has, that long reach, and then using that long reach to reach around the waist and grip at that other arm. And that's something that started to trouble Li Jiangli. Um, it was at this point towards the latter part of that first round that I began to think, oh, you know what? He's beginning to get his groove a little bit here. Are we going to see a theme continue as we go into the second round? Am I going to start losing this little
mhm.
uh, this little game that we got here? Yeah, he started doing better and better as time went on. I think you're right that the rust was beginning to perhaps get shaken off. Li Zhengli did get Neil Langley down again, but for only for about 10 seconds, probably less than that. Just couldn't make anything. He got kicked back up by Neil, and that was on the feet to finish the round. And it was really Neil that looked like he was being the predator towards the latter part. It's kind of a hard round to score, but I would probably, push come to shove, give it to Neil.
See,
He just looked like
I
he,
had that one down to Li Jiangling,
yeah, it's
just
hard.
for the way he started with the punch combination and the
Yeah,
got Magny up against the wall. Um,
mm,
but if you like, I could easily see it going the other way as well. It was very
yeah,
close.
very hard to score. Yeah,
But you
I,
mentioned Magny when he had him up, when he had Lee against the cage during the fight.
mm,
He was using his right arm to go around the back of
yeah,
Lee and get kind of wrist control from round the back of the fighter, and it was really
yeah,
restricting Li Jiang Ling's ability to sort of get himself off the cage wall because
yeah,
his whole right side was being restricted. He wasn't
yeah,
able to, strike in that clinch. And I
yeah,
thought
yeah,
it was
yeah,
really, really a good strategy
yeah, absolutely
considering
was.
Magny's game plan was obviously to get him against the cage a lot
Yeah,
and hold him in position. I thought it
yeah,
worked really well for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But I did give that round to
yeah,
Lee just in my little
and
scores.
quite
Um,
possibly, you could, very well be correct there. Yeah, hard to score, but it's close.
yeah, there was a few fights which were hard to score tonight. Actually,
Yeah, there
I
was.
will
Yeah,
say they're very, very difficult. One of them I just gave up trying to score. Uh, and just enjoyed it. The second round begins. Is Magny looks like he's really found his
Mm,
mojo, if you like. He looks
yeah,
comfortable now, and
yeah. It was almost like him. He felt that he experienced all that Li Jiangli was going to offer for
yeah,
the night,
yeah,
and was like, okay, I know what you've got now. I
yeah.
also know
See what I've got.
where I need to get, and he got after it straight away. It's like he wasn't too bothered whether it's out striking or in the clinch. To be honest, sometimes he was choosing to clinch up himself. Sometimes it was forced upon him a little bit, but he just didn't look out of his depth anywhere where it was gonna go.
Yeah,
You
he
know,
used his reach well in that second round with some of the
yeah,
strikes
yeah.
and
And
took
he
advantage
was
of
hip
stuff.
hugging him again, using those long arms. He really dominated the hip through an angle. So he was sidestepping to the side up against the fence and squeezing those hips in and kept threatening to trip him down. I mean, it's not a pretty looking takedown attempt, but they're so
No,
effective because it spoils those hips. And he kept getting him to the back of Li Jiangli. And then he was looking more and more aggressive from that backward position with his strikes. Yeah, Li Jiangli looks a little lost at times. He was grabbing the fence at moments because I think he was a little bit,
didn't
you
know what to
know,
do.
yeah, didn't know what to do, and he knew he was going to get put down on the mat again. It was just scoring against him each time. So yeah, he had a couple of cheeky little grabs against the fence. Um, but fair play to Li Jiangli. He was reversing the position. This was now getting about 3.5 minutes left in the round. He was reversing it, but then was getting his head stuffed. And then you see Neil Magny try to power drive him. It looked like an attempt to power drive him.
Yeah.
Luckily he didn't go all the way through with it because I'm not too sure how that would have been seen. But it certainly was spoiling any takedowns attempts from Li Jiangli. And would have been tiring for Li Jiangli to be stuffed there with his head down like that because he really had nowhere to particularly go. It was a difficult
Yeah,
situation
and
for him.
Li Jiangli would have used up so much energy just trying to get himself kind of free from these clinches that
Yeah,
Magny kept putting him into, and he was using his hips and his body weight and his
yeah,
size well. Um,
yeah,
and like I say, particularly when they were up against the cage, Li Jiangling did look a bit lost at where to go
mm,
from there. Um, yeah, it was an interesting fight. I
mm.
was a little bit disappointed with Li Jiangling's performance because I've seen him
Yeah,
fight better, but I think
yeah. I've seen him
his,
look more
I think
comfortable on the
Magny
feet.
was very, very good
Mm,
more than
yeah,
that. I think.
yeah. I just think he normally conserves a little bit more energy and is normally more relaxed in the striking. But I think the fact that Neil's got that such long range and that incredible cardio, he was able to make Li Jiangli always never comfortable there. Um, yeah, normally Li Jiangli has that really good stand-up form and you're willing to stand in front of someone and just look relaxed. He would just never look like he could relax at any point. I think this ground down on him. Um, we still see some good exchanges. Li Jiangli was still, breaking free, looking for strikes of his own. At one point, rocking Neil a teeny little bit at times. Looked like he may have rocked him a little bit, but it was so fleeting and brief. And Neil went back to it, pinning up against the fence, but they kept turning. It was still competitive. It wasn't completely one-sided, but it just seemed that the attempts Li Cheng-li was doing were hitting a wall each time, and when Neil was doing stuff, it was just looking like it was being more effective each time. And Neil was striking and using shoulder butts, knees in the clinch, being more diverse because he had slightly better head position and arm position on their exchanges against the fence, whether his back was against the fence or whether he was pushing Li Jiangli's back against the fence. He was just looking like he was looking for the strikes, looking more diverse, looking like he had more energy. And on the breaks, right at the end of that second round, he was looking really effective. He broke free, was looking at the knees, and was peppering shots in. It looked nasty. Li Jiangli's head movement was second to none, though, avoiding the main onslaught of those shots, but still some of them were hitting home, and it was putting Neil ahead on the scorecard and finished with a takedown. I think was it briefly into mount position. I think it was a mount position. It was a little bit hard to see where their legs was, but it looked like a mount position at the end of the second, which consolidated the win for that round.
Yeah, it was comfortably Neil Magny's round, but like you say, whilst we mentioned, like Li Jiangling looked a little bit like he was struggling when he was up against the cage. He still he was still in the fight, and he was still,
Yeah.
he was still doing things to try and uh, reverse the clinch and
Mm-mm.
reverse different things, that the
Yeah.
takedowns and whatnot. Um, but Magny was finding his real fight. He just found his groove in
Yeah.
that second round. The third round began with Jin Lang. He came forward and he was trying to swing away at Magny, but Magny
Yeah.
was keeping his distance while peppering uh, Jin Lang with some strikes. Jin Lang
Mm.
does keep kind of charging forward because he knew, I think, he knew it was a close, probably one round each, or he could have been even two down.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, he landed a couple of leg kicks against Magny. Magny grabbed Jin Lang and gets him up against that cage wall again. And he nails Jin Lang with some knee strike. There was one to the head, which was quite good as
Yeah.
they separated. Um,
Mm-mm.
he scored a takedown against Jin Lang. He gets to half guard, um, and he attacks him with the ground and pound.
Yeah.
Magny also had back control at one point with landing some more strikes, and he was kind of swinging away as Magny was swinging away as the round
Mm.
ended. I thought it was a really strong performance by Neil Magny.
Yeah. 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 He got stronger and stronger throughout the match, which is a really good sign that we're going to see good things from him. Um, like I said, I think it's been a little while since we've seen him.
Yeah,
But it looks like he's going to make a comeback and be back as a serious contender. I think he was in the top 5, wasn't he, at one point? And
yeah, he was
he's
well up
really
there.
right up there with this kind of performance. It looks like he really could be getting back up there in short duration. I hope he gets another fight fairly soon. Um, so he can just build off of this performance and keep any of that rust at bay. Because the only time he ever looked a little fragile was in that first round, but it was nothing too bad. Started getting his groove within that first round and got stronger, stronger throughout. So I think this is just going to carry on into his next performance.
Yeah, I think so. It was final scores was unanimous decision 30-27, 30-27,
Yeah,
30-27 to Magny.
yeah,
And I think that was pretty much right.
yeah,
Next fight was interesting. Benil Dariush versus Drakkar Closer. Wow,
yeah,
the
yeah,
finish to this was scary.
yeah. It was.
But
Yeah, because I had Drakkar close down to win this. I thought he was going to
he looked like he
knock
was.
Daesh down out. That's what I thought.
Well,
Um, yeah, I'm just trying to recap.
so the first round began with Dariush looking good. He attacks Closer with a left, followed by a body kick. Closer
That's right.
responds
Yeah,
by
yeah,
clocking Dariush with a few rights, and then Dariush
mm,
grabs Closer. He gets a takedown on him. Closer gets back up, and Dariush holds him against the cage wall, which we
yeah,
saw a lot of tonight, which was
yeah.
like
We did.
fighters holding each other against the
Yeah,
wall. Dariush jumps on the back of Closer as he's standing. Darius
yeah,
peppers Closer with some short range strikes, and
yeah,
Darius hunts for the rear naked choke as the kind
yeah,
of round ends, and Closer's defending it. That was round
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. I thought he wasn't going to go out the first round. Darius had that dominant back take. One thing I've always said about body triangles, whether it's on the ground or standing up, it's actually quite hard to finish.
Yeah,
You're just sunk that little bit lower down, so you're trying to do the choke with your arms in line with your shoulders, and this is kind of hard to finish because you've got to use some arm strength to finish the
yeah,
choke. Whereas if you had your regular hooks in, their head's a little lower, and you're doing the special with your elbows a little closer to your waist, which makes you feel functionally stronger. But nevertheless, it's still so close. There's a couple of chokes where I thought, oh, this is going to be over early. But he endured. He kept managing to strip those arms off. And he managed to get to the end of the round. And the commentators are right on the money, really. It takes something out of you. You would think that the tiredness would be on Drakkar Close, carrying both their body weights. but it's not actually the case. This is why they always go to the cage. They go to the cage because they can prop themselves up and take some of that weight off them. So really, the tiredness is going to be all put on Daesh. Staying on his back like that. So the second round strategy to come out fast and hard, which Drecker Close did, and I think these cornermen were calling for, was a really good strategy to end up with an explosive, exciting start to that second round.
Yeah, I think Darius looked tired. Benil Darius looked tired at the start of the second round as well.
Yeah.
And it began with Closer just attacking Darius with some
Mm.
leg kicks. Then
Yeah.
he had an accidental low blow, and the
Yeah.
fight was briefly halted. But then the fight resumed. Closer, it was almost like Closer got really annoyed by the low blow because he just ended up cracking Darius with a right, and he was
Yeah, a
massive
couple of leg kicks
swinging.
as well. He
Yeah,
landed some really hard-looking leg kicks as well. Yeah, he was coming out chasing it, which is absolutely what he should have done. But they both ended up rocking each other, and they both carried on throwing down the shots. And as much as I like to see it, I wouldn't like to see it from my own fighter, because you're just putting things up in there in the percentages of who's going to get lucky. And not that I believe in luck, it's something I keep reiterating, but when you're throwing down like that, the
so open,
prediction of
isn't it?
the prediction of who's going to win is, well, who's going to land first.
Yeah,
Um,
because Closer, he kind of crushed him with this massive swinging counter right hook.
yeah,
And he had Darius backed up and back. He was really looked like he was going to
mm,
finish him. And then
yes,
all of a sudden, Darius came out wildly swinging, and Darius
yep,
fired back, and he rocked him with a combination, which finished with a left hook, which knocked his mouth guard kind of
yeah,
half out of his mouth, which made it look even more sensational
was,
in
yeah,
terms
yeah,
of the way it looked. But it was a huge shot. But what a
mm,
round of MMA! Just hell for leather,
yeah,
punch for punch, strike for
yeah,
strike, just bang. But
yeah,
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 like I would imagine as a coach and as a team, there's probably quite stressful because it was so
yeah,
open. It was kind of like
yeah,
wildly just pushing forward and swinging from
mm,
both men.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Enjoyable though to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but well done to Daesh. He goes on with another win under his belt. He'll be stepping up more and more.
Yeah,
I
and the
do
thing
worry.
is,
I do worry about his ability to strike, though. I know he won by knockout, but I don't know. It didn't look a tidy performance in terms of his striking. We know
wasn't
his
technically
grappling's good.
great, was it?
No.
Like in terms of his technique and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, sure, he could take a punch.
Mm,
I thought he did look rocked just before he finished the fight.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
one,
I
I think
thought
it
he
was
was on the dissolve.
the one
Yeah, I thought.
counter hook
Mm,
looked nasty.
yeah,
Uh, but he took it on the chin as it were, and
yeah.
pushed forward. But yeah, they were wild and they were open.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
speaking of wild and open and bit of a slugfest. Next up, we had the women's UFC strawweight championship match between uh, Zhang Hueli and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Um,
yeah,
quite frankly, this was one of the best fights I've ever seen, men or
yeah,
women of all
yeah,
time. This is 100% going in the UFC Hall of Fame as a fight.
yeah.
Um, it was absolutely sensational. Obviously, we'll break it down now, but like, just how good was this fight?
Uh, um, Man or woman, this to me was probably the best stand-up confrontation between two individuals that I've ever seen in MMA. It was so equal, but they're different in their body composition, which make it interesting. Different style of striking. Uh, it's just I give up writing notes because
Yeah,
things
as
were
well. I
happening.
just gave up.
It was ridiculous. And none of the rounds were really any different from any other round. It was a complete throwdown, but all technically based. Joanna looked incredibly crisp. Her volume of striking was incredible. I think she just lacks a little bit of the outright power to really put someone in their ass with a single shot. She's definitely a combination orientated striker.
She used to have that though, didn't she? Like earlier, where before she lost her championship, she
Mm.
was knocking out women kind of
I
all
think
over
it
the
was just
place.
because, yeah, I think it's just because, back at that time, people were a little bit unaware of,
Standard wasn't
how
it? Was
she's
it?
coming in with her strikes and stuff, and they was getting hit a little cleaner. But I think once people cottoned on to, her style, if you will, they started getting a little bit more effective in surviving with her a little bit more. Yeah, but I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, the volume that they both threw was impressive on its own, but the way they stayed clinical as well. Never was their guards astray. Never was their head work particularly out of position. Never was their footwork off balance, other than trying to exchange a takedown attempt. It was absolute awe-inspiring performance, and anyone getting into MMA, anyone really well established in MMA, would do themselves a disservice in not watching a bout like this, because not that it had it all in terms of like there wasn't hardly any ground, but in terms of MMA striking, takedowns attempts, a defensive takedown, really good cage work. This had it all in that aspect. Just it was just beautiful to watch. Just so exciting. I was on the edge of my seat throughout. Entertainment from the get-go. But how do you break down each and every individual rounds? Okay, so you had slight diversities in it. Where you had how'd you say her name? Wally Zhang. Is that how you
Yeah,
pronounce her name?
Wally's
Yeah,
Yang, I think.
she was the one that was perhaps trying to mix it up a little bit with some takedowns attempts. Made her look a little bit possibly more diverse. She had a little bit more power in her hands, which was probably why it was beginning to mark up Joanna a little bit more so as the rounds progressed. But the person who was wearing the damage in the first two rounds was Wally. She was really looking bruised up around her eyes, and this did steadily get worse throughout. But she weathered it really, really well. When you take the first round through to the fifth, she never got any. She did get progressively worse, but it was not getting as bad as it was for Joanna. Joanna went unscathed looking for the first two rounds, and then 3, 4, and 5, we
She
saw
got
this
just
hematoma
demolished.
appear, and her nose got knocked sideways. I think in round 4,
Yeah,
it was an
shot
awful
the
looking.
nose was just like one of those ones where
But
you
did it
just
stop her
cringe.
being in the pocket? No, it
No,
didn't stop her being in the pocket. She stayed trading.
brave.
Her volume was still just as ferocious. Incredible.
We've been treated like this is our 10th show since we've been doing these now,
Mm,
and we've been treated to some really, really great women's MMA
mm,
since we've
yeah,
been doing it. Like we've been very lucky.
yeah,
But this was just like another level of just striking was sensational.
yeah.
Um,
Okay. I mean, I know we criticize judges and stuff, but good judge, bad judge. How do you judge each and every one of these rounds? It's so difficult.
well, I
So
think
difficult.
I think no one would have complained if they'd given it to Joanna John Jacek, but
Yeah.
I did think that it was the.
Oh, I've lost you, Si, if you're still there.
Sorry, that was me. I
Oh,
clicked it by accident. Um, I did think it was the right decision to give it to Yang Wali. I felt that she. I felt it was so hard to score. But like you said, she was more diverse in the things she was trying to do. She
yeah,
also did the most damage. So
yeah.
in the end, I
I've
kind of went with that as the
yeah,
deciding factor because the striking was so even.
yeah.
Um,
I think the volume went in Joanna's favour. I think she
yes.
threw and landed the most, marginally, but not by much. But she definitely wore it on her face more.
Oh god.
Did you see some of the slow mos when she was hitting the hematoma when it spread over her forehead? You see the slow
Yeah.
motion. You see all that blood and liquid in there.
Mm.
Ah, crikey! I
So
mean,
what for people who are
brave.
not aware, what was causing that swelling? Is
I
it
mean,
just a
this is
bruise?
bleeding between the bone and the skin. It happens on bony areas, so you'll get it on the forehead, on the cheekbone, on your shin. You don't get
Yeah.
them on the fleshy parts, so you're not going to get it on the top of your arm. You'll more likely get it on your forearm. So it's where it's bony, and you're basically getting a bruise effectively that's heavily bleeding under the skin, and it creates this hematoma. It was sort of really ugly looking.
So swollen, didn't it? And I think
Yeah,
that if it had got much worse, then the doctor probably would have been in there.
I did wonder whether they was gonna. I mean, if it had opened up, if she had got cut, I think as a strategy, once I saw that hematoma, I would have been calling for Wally to do elbows, because if it
Yeah.
opened up, that would have bled so heavily, and
They'd have had
on
to-
the forehead above either or eye,
yeah,
that could have been a stoppage. So I would have perhaps liked to have seen some elbows going in a little bit more frequently, maybe especially on the break against the cage. But
yeah,
one other thing that impressed me with Joanna is a skill in anti-wrestling, about pummeling and stopping and stuffing and stifling takedown attempts. She seems to have got this down to a T. She's got better and better and better there.
definitely, hasn't she? Joanna
Yeah,
Jędrzejczyk has improved considerably in the last year or so.
yeah,
Her all-round game, particularly her defensive side of her game,
yes,
because obviously she went on a tear as a champion before, and
yeah,
she was beating everyone and all comers.
mm,
Um, and maybe I think it's only my personal opinion, but I think maybe she wasn't working on defense that much. Like she would have
yeah,
been, but like not
mm,
maybe. I think she was more focused on what she was going to do from an attacking point of view.
yeah,
But since she lost the title, I feel like she's got better with every fight.
yeah,
And this was just absolutely sensational. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think they'll run it back as soon as they're both fit. I think they'll do it again. And
Yeah,
why
I mean
shouldn't they?
this has got to taken something out of them in their longevity of their fight
Yeah,
career. I do
let's
think
give
some
them some
fights take
months
something
to
out of you,
recover.
and you got to wonder whether it has. But yeah, um, I just want to reiterate, this is possibly one of the best striking I've seen out of men or women. I don't like to really push to do the segregation,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
the women's bouts have been around a lot less long as the men's have in terms of the UFC, and but already I think we've seen something that's probably been the best performance and grit and determination
Pressure.
between two athletes, regardless of whether they're male or female. This is going to be hard to beat for a long, long time. But yeah, I think you're possibly going to see this bout happen again in the future.
Let's give them 6 months to recover.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need time to recover. But one strategy change that we see from Joanna, which I think deserves to be mentioned, is the fact that she started to go southpaw, and she knew this was a close fight, and whether it's the experience of her camp that suggested for her to do this, or whether it's a decision on her own, she switched stance, not because her leg was injured or anything, because normally you'd see a switch of stance
Yeah,
for
for
long
an injury.
duration because her leg's been damaged. Although she was taking punishment on it, it was never bothering her in any meaningful way. But she switched her stance up to start to look for that head kick and body kick to try to create, that finish. That was her way of trying to put that fight to bed, because just her hands alone didn't seem power enough, and I think she knew
Yeah,
that. But she knew she could have power if she switched the stance opposite to Wang Li and try to nail that head kick in. So, really impressive that she was still able to keep her faculties about herself to be strategical and to make adaptations to try to win outright. She knew it was really close. She knew she was throwing down with someone who could throw down equal to her. And so she tried to switch her stance up to try to add a little bit more power, a little bit more opening to her kicks to try to cause that finish. So great strategy. Didn't pull off for her, but it was good to see nevertheless. And I think it goes to show we're seeing an advancing and improving Joanna. We're going to see more success from her, I'm sure, in the future because of this.
yeah, and like we talked about the fight just before this, Benil Darish versus Drakkar Closer,
Mm,
and we talked about like how wild and open their
yeah.
strikes were, and like the way that fight finished technically wasn't great apart from the
No.
final punch,
Yeah.
whereas this was 5 rounds of
Mm,
toe to toe striking, which
yeah.
was technically excellent with
Yeah.
combinations and spinning
Yeah.
back fists, and but it was all technically
Mm.
perfect.
Yeah, it was clinical on
Just
both
very,
fronts.
very,
Both of them had high
very
guard at
impressive.
all times. No arms went wayward. But as much as they had really tight form, good head movement, good footwork, they was able to find each other's face and legs and bodies time and time again for entertainment. What can happen between two really skillful people is that they end up being too shy to throw at each other. If they're outmatched in, they just don't feel that it's right. They put the feeling of whether something was going to land or not to one side and just get straight tucked in. And this is something that I find women do more. Maybe it's because they never they less have the one punch knockout that we see with men, and so that's probably why you get the throwdowns and this fighting in the pocket for longer combinations. But that's great entertainment for us. And this was the problem with writing notes. Not only was there so much going on that I just ended up, I mean, there's smoke coming off my pad.
Mhm.
I think it's towards the end part of the second round. I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to watch this and write key points if there's any. But
Yeah.
it was hard to pick out any key thing really, other than it was
Yeah,
just
yeah, there
great
was
to
a
watch. You just had to watch it as a fan.
yeah, and I think I used to think I didn't score 3 of the rounds because
Mm,
there was so much going on. It was constant. It was just one of
yeah,
those where you just got to sit back and enjoy. Um,
yeah,
and I think they'll run it. Like I said, I think they'll run it back. Zhang
mm,
Wuli defeated Joanna John Jacek by split decision 48
yeah,
47, 47 48, 48
yeah,
47. It's literally about as close as you can get.
yeah.
Um,
Absolutely, it deserved that close result.
and sometimes when you get these big fights, they 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 flatter to deceive. Like
Mm,
Styles makes fights.
yeah,
And these two women, from a stylistic point of view, were just went toe to toe for 5 rounds, and it was
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Um,
It's going to go down as an all-time great. That one.
and the beauty of MMA is no fight is the same. You never know how fighters are gonna react and
Mm,
behave in certain fights. And then the main event was the UFC middleweight championship, which was Israel Adesanya
yeah,
undefeated versus UFC veteran ranked number 3 Yoel Romero.
yeah,
Um, everyone thought Romero might be the one to give him trouble.
yeah,
And everyone thought this was going to be like a bit of a blockbuster of a fight because Stylebender's style is just so diverse and
yeah,
aggressive, and he's been knocking people out all the way since he
yeah,
came to UFC. Yoel Romero's got this incredible power which he can bring from nowhere,
yeah,
and they had a ball fest done. They was
yeah.
absolute. Oh,
Mm,
I
yeah,
without
yeah. A very strange start from Romero. He come out and didn't
his
move.
guard
It's
was
like
so high. He had this
yeah, and
very
at
high
first,
guard, and he
yeah, at
stood
first I was
out.
thinking, okay, this is. I thought it's done as a bit of a joke thing to maybe mock Adesanya, and at first it was funny and good. I was thinking, oh, what the hell is going to happen? I thought something was going to break out and be big, but it stayed like this for. I don't think anything was really thrown for the first 3 minutes. It was a really strange
I think
start to a fight.
I meant to write it down. I think I wrote it on my pad, which is upstairs. I think it was something like Adesanya threw about 3, landed about 3 strikes, and
Yeah,
Romero landed about 5 in the first round, which tells you,
yeah. I,
you know,
I gave Romero the round because
yeah, me
the
too.
things he did throw were more consequential. And when he did throw, it looked like wow, he had such incredible timing for that rear hand of his.
Mm,
He's in southpaw stance, and he would duck a shot to throw his crosshand, and they were fleeting, of potentiality of what could have gone down. But it was like, well, he was sitting and waiting, hoping that these handful of strikes, throwing hard as he could throw, were going to knock him out with one strike. Maybe he's just holding all the energy for those five shots that he threw in that first round. But equally was confusing was Adesanya. He's got the range, the height, and the looser striking. I was expecting to see him open out to keep him at bay more, but it was like he was too shy to come into Romero's potential crazy power, and Romero is waiting for such a perfect strike that it just was never really coming about for him. It was strange. It was really strange, and like you say, disappointing. I thought it might liven up for the second round, but that started to very quickly go the same way. Very, very slow paced, and I was disappointed in both. I think they're equally were to blame for this performance. I just thought Adesanya was going to put it on him from the outside range, which began to happen in the latter rounds. But by then, I think we was already bored into disinterest in the match. I don't want to sound harsh, but I think when you're fighting for a title, do exactly that. Fight for your title. It was just strange.
You got this thing where you've got Israel Adesanya undefeated, spectacular knockouts all the way,
Yeah.
calling out John Jones, arguably the
Mm.
greatest of all time, to try and get this
Yeah.
big super fight. So now's
Yeah.
your chance to go and defend your first title defense. Go and
Yeah.
take out a legend like Yoel Romero, regardless of what
Yeah.
you think of Yoel Romero, whether he should have had this, whether he should have been the one to have this title fight.
Yeah.
He does, yeah. He's got a following. He's got the power to knock people out.
Mm.
And neither one of them, Romero, you said it beautifully just now. Romero was looking for the perfect shot,
Yeah.
and Adesanya was keeping his distance, but
Yeah.
wasn't keeping his distance in the way that we all expected. We all expected him to keep his distance, but I
Yeah. I mean,
expected him to be hitting high kicks, low kicks, using his
yeah. I
feet
mean,
to keep that distance.
my strategy for Adesanya, if I was in his corner or in his fight prep for strategy, I'd be saying, look, keep him at range but keep on him. Keep something going out at him at all times.
Mhm.
He's fit enough. He's got a good enough timing and the diverse enough striking to have kept poking something out at Romero and grind him down. Romero's a big, solid guy that has showed fatigue in previous fights, and he ain't a young man. As much as he's a physical freak, and he is absolutely that, age will always get hold of you in the end. And he's what, 42, 43 years old, and we have seen him flag before. You would think that over those 5 rounds, Adesanya would have strategized to fatigue Ramiro to give him a chance to stop him. But maybe we're not in there at the end of the day, and he is a complete freak, Ramiro, and maybe he did feel the power of a couple of those shots and thought, you know what, he
I'm
could
just
put me
going to do
away
enough.
here, and played it safe.
He did. I
But
mean, in fairness,
safe
he
is
absolutely.
boring.
Yeah, it is. He did. He tore up Romero's leg.
Yeah,
There was the one
throughout.
he did do was he just kept smashing away at it, and
Yeah,
by the third round, you could see it was his leg looked like a cheese grater, where
yeah,
it was going out in lumps.
yeah,
But I mean, other than that, like I'm expecting like high kicks and spinning kicks and all these things we've seen from Adesanya, which I thought he could use to get at Romero,
yeah,
and you just didn't really see any of it. You
yeah,
didn't even
yeah,
see any aggression from any of them until the final 10 seconds of the fight when they
yeah,
started to
yeah,
get irritated with each other,
yeah,
where the crowd was booing, and
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was overall disappointing, I gotta say.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, I scored the first round for Ramiro. The second round I did for Ramiro, just because the things he did land were
yeah,
looking
me too.
really physically consequential. But after that, it's like it goes back into that. He's waiting for that perfect shot, but no longer really had the energy to follow up with anything. And yeah, it just looked like he was not even a sitting duck, because he wasn't a sitting duck as such, but he was just unwilling to chase down to try to push close, and he has to do that because his body composition is shorter and he has so much less reach. You kind of have to push through to get your shots to
Yeah,
land, and he was not doing that. He was waiting on a single individual strike each time. So Adesanya started gaining confidence in that third round, and like you say, started picking away at the lead leg, and he did start to really grate on him. And maybe was it
overall
something
a
that
couple of
slowed him
times.
down even more. It was slow anyway, but maybe put Ramiro to a complete stop. Ramiro had some successes of his leg kicks of his own on Adesanya. Um, I think to have kept the action going rather than waiting for the perfect hand strike, it would have been nice to see Ramiro keep targeting the leg of Adesanya, and then I think Adesanya wouldn't have been able to target his leg so
He'd have
much.
had to do something different then, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
To
yeah,
change it
because
up.
Ramiro really connected nicely a couple of times with Adesanya's legs, and I think we would have seen a closer fight, a more active fight potentially, but was not the case. Ramiro began to fade in his effectiveness from round 3 through to round 5. You had a little display of action towards the latter part of that end round, but other than that, there's not a lot to talk about with the fight. A bit of a fizzle out. It's like getting a firework from a shop as a kid because it's got really good pictures and colours on it, and you take it home and it's a complete flop. It's just a quick spark and a
Nothing
puff,
happened.
and you're like, well, is that it? Yeah, that's how I saw this performance. But styles make fights. Stylistically, maybe that's what stopped it from being good. On paper, it looked good, but what's for Ramiro now? He's not a young man. Yes, he's a genetic freak, but where does he go from here? I don't know.
I'd like to see a Adesanya versus Whittaker rematch. I think that would
That
be
would be
quite
good.
interesting.
Yeah, that would be good.
And the problem is now for Adesanya as a kind of brand and as a fighter, if he wants that John Jones fight, which I'm not entirely sure he'll get, because I don't know if John Jones will come down a weight, up a
Yeah,
weight, down a weight. But I had it as Romero won the first round, Romero won the second round. Then I
yeah.
had Adesanya, and then I had Romero winning the final round, and I had Romero winning the fight.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I,
Only
I
very slightly. As I had it at 48-47 to Romero.
yeah.
But
I knew it was going to be
I
close, but
understand why as well.
yeah, I just gave the last 3 rounds to Adesanya because he was doing the damage. Really,
Yeah,
Adesanya come
that
out
was what.
unscathed. Yeah, yeah. But what can I say? Not all fights are going to be exciting. I think the fact that we had such an exciting female bout that was fast paced and so much was happening, and we see two females go at it and fight practically to the death. They certainly look willing to. And then we see two people who looked a little gun shy, was put it in total opposite spectrum. So that made it look even worse. The fact that we had to watch this after
Yeah, I was
two
just
lot
watching.
lighter people that were really, really active. It just made it look even slower, maybe, because our eyes have all got accustomed to that fast pace beforehand. But look, it is what it is, and I'm just kind of curious to see what Ramiro's going to do now, whether he's going to continue. There was no hints that he was going to be retiring, but I just don't know
No.
where his direction is from here.
Yeah, it's difficult to see where he's going to go.
Yeah,
So the predictions wise, Alex Oliveira versus Griffin.
yeah,
You had Oliveira, I had Max
yeah,
Griffin, so you had that one.
yeah,
Then Neil Magny versus Li Jiang Ling.
yeah,
I had Neil Magny, you had Lee. Uh,
yeah,
Benil Darish, I had Benil Darish, you had Draka Closer, so I had
yeah,
that one.
hmm,
We both had Yang Welly, um,
yeah,
so we both had that, and I had Israel Adesanya. So I
yeah,
won 1, 2, 3, 4, 2.
yeah,
So that means
yeah.
I'm one
You
one
had
nil
it.
up, 1-0 up in
Yeah,
the Superstar Prediction Series of the Danny Batten Show.
that's okay. I'm the comeback kid.
It's the one. So we have got a couple of questions just to finish off
Okay.
before we finish. Just gonna bring them up. He says. But guys, if you've got any questions for Danny, they could be anything on combat sports generally. Uh, you could send them to Twitter and Instagram at acecast_nation, facebook.com/acecastnation, or you can email acenetworkcontact@gmail.com. Uh, there you go. We'll do this one first. Peaches wants to know, why was Romero versus Israel Adesanya so shockingly bad?
Yeah, I mean, we can only speculate, really. Like I say, it could be down to styles. It might have been that Adesanya felt the power of Ramiro and was totally shocked, uh, and made him a little bit shy to open up in too much. We could put it down to that possibly. And for Ramiro, he's an explosive fighter, and this is 5 rounds. So I think he wanted a slow start. He got the slow start, but it never really got going. Styles. I don't know what else to say about it, really. You just don't expect it
We
to
just
be like
talked
that.
about it. Obviously, Styles fight, and it wasn't what we expected, was it?
No.
I do feel that as the challenger, Romero's got to do more. I got to say that, and I think he was so
Yeah,
dependent on looking for that
yeah,
perfect shot.
I agree. Ramiro should have looked a little bit more hungry to take that title from him. And I think when you are the challenger, you have got to take it to them a little bit. Of course, you've got to strategize for the fight in hand, but you've at least got to leave it all in there. Ramiro did not leave it all in there.
Biggest fight of your
Yeah,
life. Got
yeah,
to make sure you don't come out of there looking or feeling like you haven't left it all on the table.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
just look at that and I wonder whether both can do that. But then Israel
yeah.
Adesanya did enough to win or keep his
He
title.
did.
He's also very, he's young and he's going to learn all the time. Whereas
Yeah,
Romero, you're talking, is coming to the tail end of his career.
yeah,
Maybe I think he'll probably be disappointed that he didn't maybe
yeah. I don't think either
push,
of them would be
push
happy with
forward a
the
bit more.
performance.
No,
Yeah, none of them would be happy with that performance. Or they shouldn't be anyway.
no.
But yeah, we can just write this one off and just look forward. As Adesanya, I still think is going to produce some really exciting performances in the future. As will Yamiro if he chooses to fight on. We know they've both got the potential to perform excitingly, but it ain't all about excitement. It's about results as well. I just think you can find the balance and put the offering of a exciting fight and play safe with your strategies too. What the strategy was from both their perspective, I just don't know. Adesanya should have been being active and creative from range and trying to wear Ramiro out, and Ramiro should have been pushing close and trying to be creative as he comes in with spinning back fists, jumping knees. He should have been putting more of that sort of scenario down on Adesanya. I think it was all for Ramiro to look to finish, and it was all for Adesanya to pick apart and stay at range, but it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, I agree. So we've got the next question is from Davey, who says, "Why is Tom Mearns struggling to get momentum back since his injury? Is it attitude or mental, or is it just a case of getting his head back down and getting back into the flow?"
Yeah. Okay. So like I say, he's had a lot of things going on in his private life that some things have got to be left private. But I, it's always hard to not sound like you're making excuses for anyone. But he hasn't been himself for a little while. He's been going. He's really gone through a lot in recent years, and just taken on this new job. He didn't have a job for a while. He was going from job to job, getting laid off for whatever reason. So that's always disrupting for your life. And it's not easy for these fighters trying to make a fight career for themselves at pro level on Cage Warriors Bellator, which is what he's been fighting on, which is you're up against full-time athletes quite often. But for these people trying to cut up the ranks, got to hold down jobs.
Yeah, I think people forget that sometimes, don't they?
Yeah. So that's been difficult, and me and Tom have had history, in recent times where he was no longer under our club for a little while. We had fallings out, but that's been put to bed. We've put that to rights, and we're back on track with that. Yeah, it's just been a lot for the kid to deal with. But we saw a sharper Tom. He is getting back on track. For me personally, my next advice for Tom is to get back competing grappling tournaments. Back when he was looking at his best in MMA was when he was competing really regularly. So when I say competing, I think it's really important. I do push my guys to do grappling tournaments, both no-gi and gi, for the simple fact of getting experience at being a competitor. It just helps you deal with the nerves and helps you up your pressure performance. So what I mean by pressure performance is that when you're in your club and your own environment and you get, say, people from other clubs come down, you're always going to perform better because you're on your own turf. So your pressure performance is always going to be to your max. But when you compete both, on your Cage Warriors, on your Bellator, on your UFC, or go to another club, you always slightly underperform. It's not always the case for everyone. I think there's some people out there that are so great at performing to their best ability, regardless of what format it's on. So I would like to see Tom get back to competitive ways and competitive habits throughout the year. That in between his bouts that he has under Cage Warriors, he's getting 1 or 2, maybe even 3 grappling tournaments under his belt. Because I think that's all that's lacking in this fight. He was showing that he was the potential better fighter. He was really looking good right up until that submission. But MMA is what MMA is. Many ways to lose, and his opponent managed to find that way to win, and that isn't getting lucky. He's clearly looking for that triangle. It was the second one he prepped up on Tom. He nailed him with the second one. I don't think it was his game plan to be on his back to get a submission. I think everyone wants to be on top if they're in a ground scenario initially. But he threw up what he threw up, and he got what he went for. And we've got to commend him on that. For Tom, I think if he'd done some of these grappling tournaments and be more competitively less rusty, and firing on all cylinders, I think he would have survived those triangle attempts and defended them a lot earlier than he was defending them, and would have gone on to win by decision or by finish. But Tom isn't of that clarity where everything's firing on all cylinders just yet. But we've certainly seen that they're nearly there. So hey, look, let's push on for the next one. Let's hopefully get him to compete in some jiu-jitsu tournaments, some no-gi tournaments, and I think we'll see a high pressure performance Tom in the next bout.
Fair enough. Just quickly, what's the difference in the grappling tournaments between gi and no gi? Like, or not? No, what's the difference? I know what the difference is, but like, what difference does it make in terms of the difficulty in doing it or the technical side of it?
Okay, so what I'd say is in no-gi, you have less direct control, so you'll see less pinning. There's less stalling in no-gi. It's it's more transitional. We've seen little patterns. We went through guillotine stages with Marcelo Garcia. He was nailing people with guillotines. So you see guillotines go through a fashion. Now it's gone for quite a long duration now. We're seeing a lot of leg drop transitions. So the big thing between gi and no-gi is in no-gi, because you don't have the control of the jacket on the upper body, you can sit back for leg locks a lot more. You don't see leg locks so much in BJJ, quite simply because they can hold onto your jacket. You can't sit back so well. But in terms of skill set, on why I tell students to both train gi and no-gi in preparation for their MMA, a lot of them will sometimes argue the point at first, because they'll do a couple of gi classes and they'll be like, well, I don't like this. I feel all smothered and restricted. And how's that going to help my MMA? Well, here's how I think it helps. When you make a mistake with a certain grip, or you give up a position, or you don't defend your leg position when you're on the back, and you allow someone to dominate both your trouser legs, they're going to pass easy. They're going to punish you for every little mistake you make. So, and also it improves your base and your balance when you're on top. Why is that? Well, it's because when you're underneath and you can grab the sleeve, you can grab the collar, you've got good leverage points to attack the person who's on top's base. You can attack the base in so many more varied ways. So it helps you, being a top game player, to have a better sense of being on top and staying on top. It generally makes your game tighter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I like it. I like learning these things, you see.
Yeah.
And Johnny said, I really enjoyed your predictions last week. Will we get these every week? And I will answer that and say yes. So next Saturday, to finish off the show now, we'll do the predictions for next Saturday. I've got the card up in front of me. So it's UFC Fight Night 170. And it's a very good card, actually. So you've got the main event is Kevin Lee versus Charles Oliveira. Who have you got?
I'm going to go Charles.
Oof, I was going to go Kevin Lee, so that works out. Okay.
I knew you was going to
Uh,
go Kevin Lee, so I thought I'd be different.
There we go. Next, I think I know you're going to go for on the next one. So the next one then is Damien Maya versus Gilbert Burns.
I'm going to go Gilbert.
Yeah, I thought you might. I'm going to go Damien Maya, just
Okay.
because I love watching his
Was
grappling.
that who you was going to go for, or is it because I said
No,
who
I
you was
was
going to
going
go?
to go for Damien Maya. I just love watching him.
You thought I was going to go Damian Maya, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I thought
I
you were
just
going to
think
go Damien Maya.
I just think he's really predictable. It's not going to be obvious what he goes for. But as much as it's obvious what he goes for, he's very, very good at forcing what he wants to go for, and the opponent can't do anything about it. I just think he's getting a bit old now for
Yeah,
it. His cardio's a little bit suspect, and I think Gilbert will strategize for that. And I think, I think he's going
good.
to pull through.
Fair enough. Next up, we've got Renato Mosiano versus Demir Hadovic. I got to say, I'm not familiar with either men, so I'm going to
Yeah,
go
I'm going to go Hadovic.
Hadovic. Ah,
Yeah,
that's right. We'll both go with Hadovic.
yeah.
Uh, and then next up, we've got Johnny Walker versus Nikita Krylov. Now, that's an interesting fight.
I'm going to go Johnny Walker.
Yeah, I'm going to go Johnny as well there. I fancy he'll be very motivated after
Yeah,
his shock loss.
yeah.
Nobody expected him to lose that fight,
Right.
regardless of his opponent. They were preparing him to go all the way to the top of the card.
Yeah.
So for him to lose the way he did, I fancy him to be very motivated. And then finally, Francisco Trinaldo versus John Makadesi.
I'm going to go Macadaisy.
Makadesi, and I'll go with Francisco Trinaldo.
Yeah,
Mark that down.
I'm not so sure, but yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Here we go. And that's that. I'll save that so I can give you another whooping next week.
Yeah.
And I'll go into a 2-0 lead, and then I'll retire the game so I get.
You even thought Romero won.
I know. Well, you've got to go with what the judges say, Danny.
You have, yeah,
You've got to respect the judge's decision
yeah.
at all
And I think you
times.
got lucky with that Darish as well.
Nah, I planned for that. It was perfect. It was perfect strategy. I knew that was coming. Um, okay, guys, check us out on Twitter, Facebook. Check out the Teespring store. Check out the bstacademy.co.uk. The code for Away Day Apparel, 10% off. We have new shows, at least 3 shows a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes more. 7:30 every Monday, the Andy Campbell Championship Show. Join us in the live chat to talk football. And we'll be back next week for another MMA show. And then the following week, is it the following week? Yeah. The following week, I think, is our first watch along for UFC London, which will be a lot of fun. Join us for that in the live chat. It'll be on Facebook and YouTube. And yes, that'll be fun. We'll watch the fights together. Even if it's just me and Danny, we'll watch the fights and we'll have a chat and we'll enjoy it. And we'll also, before the UFC London card, we'll break down the Cage Warriors show from the night before with Paddy and Co. and Luke Shanks. It's going to be good.
Go on, Luke. You can do
Go
it,
on,
Luke.
What I would really like to see is Paddy win in like a round.
Oh, yeah. I want to
Luke
see
win in a
Paddy
round.
get back on track. This kid's not fulfilled his potential. I know he's got
Yeah,
potential for
that
so much
injury
more.
just injury
Yeah,
screwed him over, didn't it? And it's just
yeah.
he should already be like he should be like 6 months ahead of where Jack Shaw is. And like
Yeah,
Jack
I
Shaw
agree.
just got onto the main card of a UFC. He had this sensational debut, whereas
Yeah,
Paddy should have got there probably just
yeah.
before,
I
and
agree with that.
for whatever reason didn't quite do it. But I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to the next couple of weeks because
Yeah, me too.
friends and people fighting. It's going to be great. Guys, thanks for joining us. As always, love it. Danny, always a pleasure, my friend.
Yep.
And it's just a shame that Yoel Romero and Adesanya didn't get the memo about the exciting fights. But
We had a female bout that made up for that.
oh yeah, and the Cage Warriors main event as well. Those two combined.
Oh yeah,
made
fantastic
it all
performance.
worthwhile. Danny, cheers, mate. Guys,
Thank
see
you, Si.
next week.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny Batten.